And President Trump signing executive orders in the Oval Office today aiming to end cashless bail across the United States and increase prosecution for burning the American flag. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
When somebody kills somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months, we'll give you a trial. You never see the person again.
President Trump signing multiple executive orders on Monday aiming to end cashless bail. One order seeks to revoke federal funding to states that have cashless bail. Another ends cashless bail in Washington, D.C., and those arrested in D.C. will now be held in federal custody rather than city jail.
All over the country, cashless bail, we're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization.
Cashless bail allows suspects charged with crimes to be released from jail without posting bail. Now, certain crimes are exempt from this, like murder or armed assault, but some say bail disadvantages the poor who can't afford it and may lose their jobs while waiting for trial behind bars. But others say that it's necessary because without posting bail, there's no incentive for suspects to return to court, as bail money is refunded after the case concludes.
Because this is what bail is. Remember, it's a guarantee that you will show up for court. It's your pledge through money that you will go through the legal system. And without that cash bail, you have no reason to participate. You can just stay hidden and evade.
In 2023, Illinois became the only state to eliminate cash bail across the board. Other states like New Jersey, New York, and New Mexico have eliminated cash bail for certain misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies. And at the same time, President Trump signed another executive order cracking down on those that burn the American flag. It directs the Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute those found desecrating the flag. It also directs the State Department and Homeland Security to deny and revoke visas, resident permits, or any other immigration benefits to those convicted of defacing the flag.
If you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing, and you will see flag burning stopping immediately.
Burning the American flag was outlawed in 1968 after people were burning the flag in protest of the Vietnam War. But just 20 years later, the Supreme Court overturned that law in a 5-4 ruling, declaring the act of flag desecration as a protected symbol of free speech. Protesters burned American flags most recently in the Los Angeles riots in June after Trump ordered the National Guard to the region. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
President Trump says Chicago could be the next city for federal efforts to reduce crime, similar to what's happening right here in Washington, D.C. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help.
From the Oval Office, President Trump says that he would be able to reduce crime in Chicago similar to Washington, D.C. However, with Chicago, he says he would rather go in after the governor requests it.
I don't like to go in and do it and then have somebody stand up and say what a great job he's doing on crime. And we don't want the military in our state.
However, it doesn't look like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker will be asking anytime soon.
There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted.
In Washington, D.C., some National Guard troops were spotted carrying weapons on Sunday. This is after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave the approval on Friday.
Get out of our neighborhood!
Also on Sunday, a group was seen protesting against federal law enforcement and D.C. police while they were conducting a raid. Another group of protesters on Sunday were seen banging pots and pans in a high-crime area of D.C. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted on X that since President Trump's initiative in Washington, violent crime is down 32%, carjackings are down 86%, homicides are down 60%, and robberies are down 47%. Attorney General Pam Bondi says that 1,007 arrests have been made and 111 guns seized in D.C. since August 7th. The White House also touted that there have been no murders in Washington, D.C. for 11 days, according to statistics by the Washington, D.C. Police Department.
But Washington, D.C. is a very safe city right now. People are going out to dinner. Restaurants are opening. Restaurants that were going to close are now going to stay open.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
And in the case that has been attracting national attention, ICE detaining Salvadoran national Kilmar Abrego Garcia after he turned himself in. He's accused of human smuggling and other crimes, facing possible deportation, also being associated with the gang MS-13. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Many are following the case of illegal immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's now facing possible deportation to the African country of Uganda.
We've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison. He doesn't need to be on the streets.
But on Monday, a judge said she wants to keep Abrego Garcia in the U.S. while she can consider whether officials are violating his due process rights. Abrego Garcia recently rejected a plea deal in which he's accused of domestic violence and human smuggling in the United States. The Department of Homeland Security says that in 2019, Abrego Garcia was found with 2 alleged MS-13 gang members. The 30-year-old was brought back to the U.S. in June after he was deported to his native El Salvador earlier in the year.
I found out how the community has supported me, embraced me with so much love and solidarity, and from day one.
Abrego Garcia has denied the allegations against him and denies that he's a member of MS-13, which the U.S. has labeled a terrorist criminal organization. After Abrego Garcia rejected the plea deal, in which he would have been deported to Costa Rica, he agreed to surrender to immigration authorities in Baltimore.
You know, through a system of liberal courts, you know, he's doing things, but no, we have that under control.
Protesters are demanding his freedom, and his lawyer claims prosecutors are unfairly coercing Abrego Garcia after he rejected the initial plea deal.
Mr. Abrego Garcia has filed a new lawsuit in the Federal District Court for the District of Maryland, challenging his current confinement and challenging deportation to Uganda or to any other country unless and until he's had a fair trial.
White House Border Czar Tom Homan expects Abrego Garcia to be deported and says he can still briefly spend time with his family in the U.S. David Lamb, NTD News.
President Trump today meeting with the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung in the Oval Office, unveiling plans to revive America's shipbuilding industry and launching a joint energy project in Alaska. Trump also issuing new warnings to China over trade and national security. NTD's Mari Otsu has more from the White House.
We're going to be buying ships from South Korea.
President Trump today meeting with South Korean President Lee less than a month after South Korea proposed a $150 billion investment plan called Make American Shipbuilding Great Again.
They build them very well in South Korea, but we're also going to have them make ships here with our people. You can take a look at World War II in particular, where we were doing virtually a ship a day.
South Korea's finance minister saying in July that the goal of this project is to help rebuild America's shipbuilding industry by using Korea's expertise in the sector. Meanwhile, President Trump is also announcing a joint energy venture in Alaska.
You need oil and we have it.
Criticizing wind and solar, saying they don't work and take up valuable farmland.
God was very good to us. He gave us the greatest. We didn't use it. We have more oil and gas and coal and energy than any other country in the world by far.
The president says that the U.S. will supply South Korea with oil from Alaska and that Japan is also, quote, very strongly involved.
You know, it seems like quite far away, Alaska, but actually it's right up the little ocean, right up the little Pacific Ocean.
And on China, President Trump is saying that China controls a monopoly on magnets, which are crucial for aircraft parts and national security.
But we have a much more powerful thing, that's tariffs. If we want to put 100%, 200% tariffs on, we wouldn't do any business with China. And, you know, it would be okay, too, if we had to.
The president says that the U.S. held back Boeing jet parts from China until China agreed to supply the U.S. with magnets.
You know, they had 200 jets that didn't fly. I sent them all of the parts so their planes can fly. But the magnet situation, we have tremendous power over them, and they have some power over us.
Talk about shipbuilding and trade is happening amid a larger conversation about peace on the Korean Peninsula.
and I would like to ask for your role in establishing peace on the Korean Peninsula. So I look forward to your meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un. I hope that you will usher in a new era of peace on the Korean Peninsula.
I will do that, and we'll have talks. He'd like to meet with me.
With President Lee saying that he believes President Trump is the only world leader who has been able to end global wars. Reporting from the White House, Mariotsu, NTD News.
And in the Middle East, Israeli forces launching 2 strikes on a hospital in the Gaza Strip, killing multiple civilians, including several journalists. Meantime, President Trump says he thinks the war in the Gaza Strip will end within a few weeks. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
On Monday, rescue workers responded to the aftermath of an Israeli airstrike on a hospital in the Gaza Strip, when Israeli forces suddenly struck the same area again. Al Jazeera, Reuters, and the Associated Press confirmed that their journalists and freelancers were among the 5 journalists who were killed in the strikes. The Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, said they opened an immediate investigation into the incident.
We are aware of reports that harm was caused to civilians, including journalists. Reporting from an active war zone carries immense risk, especially in a war with a terrorist organization such as Hamas, who cynically hides behind the civilian population. As always, we will present our findings as transparently as possible.
And afterwards, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a post on X, Israel deeply regrets the tragic mishap that occurred today at the Nasser Hospital in Gaza. Israel's strike on the hospital received international criticism, including comments from France and the United Nations, which condemned the strikes. Meanwhile, President Trump on Monday said the war in the Gaza Strip could soon be over.
It's a terrible situation over there, terrible, terrible situation. But it's coming to a head, it's coming to an end. I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to have a pretty good conclusive ending.
And the situation between Israel and the Hezbollah terrorist group in Lebanon could be ending soon as well. The Lebanese government said they're planning to disarm the Iran-backed group in Lebanon by the end of the year. Israel said on Monday that they were, quote, ready to support Lebanon in its efforts to disarm Hezbollah. Israel also said that if Lebanon takes the necessary steps to disarm Hezbollah, then Israel would begin a phased reduction of Israeli troops in Lebanon, and that would be coordinated with a U.S.-led security mechanism. The United States is also mediating talks between Israel and Syria. U.S. envoy Thomas Barrack met with Syria's leader in Damascus on Monday. They previously discussed a possible security agreement with Israel for southern Syria. Jason Perry, NTD News.